What are we going to be talking about today? Well, as usual, I've made up a checklist of what's going to happen in the lesson. So we're going to look at the following topics today. We're going to have an overview of content management systems. We're going to talk about some different types of content management systems, what they're used for, what their kind of most useful applications are in terms of what projects you would use them for. We're going to talk about some of the benefits and drawbacks of content management systems, because a lot of people do see them as kind of a one-fix-all solution for everything, but that's really not the case. It's important to understand what a content management system can and cannot do. From there, we're going to go ahead and boot up XAMPP and install WordPress, which is the most popular content management system currently on our XAMPP server, and get a look at that. We're going to talk about using some templates to make it look really nice. We're going to talk about the WordPress content management system interface then, and all the things you can do to customize that and add to it. So, without further ado, let's get going and talk about what content management systems actually are. Well, a content management system, often abbreviated to CMS, is really just a piece of software that is installed on a web server, and what it does is it makes it easy to create and manage web content. And usually this is going to be through some sort of interface or some sort of control panel and involve a small enough amount, if not no, code. So it allows you to do the modification of web pages, the styling, and add some functionality without writing that code, which makes it a great tool for non-developers who maybe don't know how to code or don't know as much about code, because it's not restrictive in that sense. It doesn't disallow anybody from having a great looking website. So it allows anyone from individuals to businesses to get a great looking website or web application off the ground pretty quickly. So now some of you might be thinking at this stage, well, I'm a coder, I'm a developer now. I write my own web pages and add my own functionality. Why do I need to know about this? Well, let me go ahead and answer that with another question. Do you want to make money? Is making money as a web developer something you're interested in doing? Let me elaborate on that a little bit further with an example. Let's imagine for a second that you are a freelance web developer. You work for yourself. All of your income is solely generated through your freelance work. And a potential client has come along to you, and what they're looking for is a website. They don't want it to do anything special. They just want to create a nice looking website where they can maybe post a bit of information, maybe add an image gallery, allow people to log in and out, just some articles, things of that nature. Very simple. Now, let me ask you another question. Are you A, going to write all the HTML, all the CSS, the JavaScript, the back-end code, and the database tables from scratch with your own bare hands in your Notepad++ editor or whatever it is you use? Or B, use a content management system to do all of that for you in about 1/1000th of the time? And I'm not exaggerating, guys, there. I am saying 1/1000th of the time. That for me is a pretty easy choice, and of course it's B. Why would you write a whole website from scratch when you can use a content management system to do it for you? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, guys. So, I mean, if you're a freelancer kind of who's employed by themselves, or even a developer in industry who does some freelancing on the side, you want to be able to take on as much business as possible to maximize cash flow. If someone's looking for something simple that doesn't require any custom coding, then use the tools, that will do the job for you in a fraction of the time. Go and get paid quickly and move on to the next one. That's what this is really about, guys. Now, although many content management systems, however, are made to be used by anyone, if someone doesn't want to learn to use one, or simply doesn't have the time to do it themselves, that's where you come in. You, as a web developer, should be there to take on that work. So it's important to know how content management systems work. And as much as web development is going to be something of a passion for you, I know it's definitely a passion for me, you have to think about making money and what you're going to get out of it in your end game. So now I've probably made content management systems there seem like a little bit of a miracle cure that will do any project and suit every idea, but this is absolutely not the case. There will always be projects where you will have to write most of the code from scratch, especially in industry, guys, big businesses. They're going to have a lot of their own technologies and require you to write a lot of code on a daily basis. So real web development jobs then in industry will have you maintaining code every day, and that's really where a lot of the money is in that kind of career. So now then, let's take a look at the 3 most popular content management systems and what they're kind of most often used for. By far the most popular content management system at the moment is WordPress. WordPress, as of today, has been downloaded about 140 million times. And it's used by millions of popular sites online. Chances are, if you know someone who's kind of set up a website themselves or has had someone to set up a simple website for them, that's all WordPress. Big chance of that being true. And the reason for this popularity lies in its ease of use. So WordPress can be set up in a matter of minutes and give you a great looking website straight out the box without you having to do much at all. The thing about WordPress is that it's probably going to be used for maybe a blog or informational brochure style sites because it actually doesn't have a huge amount of functionality outside of just kind of presenting content and allowing people to kind of send you emails or something off your website. So second in line then in terms of the most popular content management systems is Joomla. Joomla is a lot like WordPress, except it has a little bit more inbuilt functionality and some more tools that it can be attached to and that you can mess around with, as well as a bit more access to the actual code behind it. So what that means from a practical application standpoint is that you can add custom functionality using your own code that you've written much more so than you could in WordPress. Now, just to mention, guys, that this is not something that's required in Joomla. It's just something that you have access to. It allows you to get a bit more under the hood as to what's going on. And Joomla is going to be used a lot more in kind of e-commerce and social networking sites because these extra customization options Joomla has are slightly harder to use than WordPress, and they're also give you that bit of extra functionality for e-commerce and kind of dynamic web application type stuff. Thirdly, down on our list, we have Drupal. And Drupal is probably the most customizable of the 3 and is more geared towards people who actually know how to code. So it's geared toward web developers and programmers. So what Drupal is all about is allowing you to add pretty much close to any functionality you're going to need and business requirements that you may have into the code. And because of that, it is by far the most difficult to use for a beginner, but it does allow someone who knows how to use it make most kinds of web applications, with a couple of exceptions. And another great thing about these guys is that they are 100% free to use. That's a great thing about these content management systems. You can download them online, run them on your website, and use them absolutely free. So, what companies might use some of these different content management systems and why? So let's talk about them in terms of our list. So we had WordPress first. So for WordPress, it's actually used on the Sony Music website. So the Sony Music website is used kind of just to display content and news about Sony Music artists and their releases. There's no kind of intricate functionality. So WordPress in that case would be the perfect content management system to use. For Joomla then, we have Harvard University over in the United States of America. Now in this case, Joomla was a great choice because Harvard is most likely going to take advantage of that extra functionality that I was talking about to do things like let students book appointments with lecturers, they can schedule classes and apply for college courses. Lastly, we have Drupal, which is used by none other than the White House over in Washington. Now, why would the White House choose to use this particular content management system? Well, it would most likely be to take advantage of the many security options that Drupal has on offer for stopping people getting into and messing around with site content, because in terms of something like the White House, a government organization, it's going to be extremely important to have your content as secure as possible. So the White House website is actually hundreds and hundreds of pages linking to downloads for thousands of documents, and Drupal is a great option for that because it gives you that security, and it's also very scalable if you need to add thousands more documents or anything like that. Now we've looked at what different types of content management systems there are and who actually uses them. Let's look now at the kind of benefits and drawbacks of using a content management system. So let's go over the benefits first. So the first benefit, obviously, as I said at the start of the presentation, is that they are easy to use. You can download them, put them on your web server, and once you go onto that folder on your website, you're going to be given an installation guide and be brought through every single step to set up that content management system, which does make it very easy for anyone to go and use. And because of that, it makes it very fast. It doesn't take someone with a hell of a lot of skills, you know, a couple of hours to set up a website or set up some sort of content management system. They just give you these instructions out the box and you're ready to go, really within a matter of minutes. Thirdly then, they look great. You know, this is the big draw for people with content management systems. Oftentimes, because they're so popular, especially in the case of WordPress, you're going to find hundreds, thousands, millions of templates online, whether they're free, whether they're paid. There's always going to be something out there that looks fantastic and it's going to suit your needs for whatever type of website you have. And because it's a content management system, it's very customizable and you can really take it in any direction you want. So that covers the benefits of a content management system. Now let's have a look at the drawbacks. I like to think about everything from kind of a practical point of view. What can I actually do with this? I'm a visual person, but at the same time for me it's all about functionality. And one of the big things about content management systems for me as a developer is I have to know that they just cannot do everything. There is always going to be some sort of special business requirement or something that's required when you as a developer are contracted to make something that is just going to rule a content management system out of the picture. What that actually means in terms of functionality for content management systems is that they are not 100% custom. You're not going to be able to add every little nitty-gritty bit of detail you want in most cases, to be honest, because you're not going to be writing all of the code from scratch yourself, and you're not going to be applying the kind of business logic to your applications by hand. And just in terms of learning, guys, now obviously this is a web development course and we're talking about content management systems. If you go ahead and you go and get your own web server, you get some hosting, you grab a content management system offline, you're totally stoked to go, upload it, you know, install it and everything, you're fine, you've got a great looking website, but there's a big problem. You won't learn anything. Really, guys, you will not learn one thing about coding if you just go and get a content management system out of the box and just start using it. You might learn how to use content management systems very well, but you're not learning any code, you're not learning how pages are constructed, you're not learning how pages interact with each other. It's simply just drag and drop, click this and you get a beautiful page, and there's not really much learning to do from that perspective. So really great as a web developer who's learning to code to know about content management systems because it's a good way to make money. On the other side of things, if you're just someone who uses content management systems, you're not going to be a web developer, you're not going to be a coder because it doesn't give you any of that code to actually look at and work with. So we've covered what content management systems are and how they work. We've taken a look now at some different types of content management systems like WordPress, like Joomla, like Drupal, and the main benefits and drawbacks of using a content management system. So let's look now at going ahead and installing one on our web server. So the one I've chosen to look at with you guys is WordPress. Now you might be asking, but what about those other two? You said there's going to like have some extra code and stuff and all this kind of customizability. Well guys, the reason I chose this is, like I said earlier, it is going to be the easiest to use, and for us getting started, it's important that we start from this level with WordPress, and then later on when things get more advanced you can look at things like Joomla, you can look at things like Drupal. WordPress also has a lot of great looking themes and plugins which allow us to add a very nice front end to it and also a little bit of functionality. So we'll take a look at what plugins are a little later in the lesson. So the question is, how do we go and install WordPress on our web server? So what we're going to do to install this on XAMPP is use something called Bitnami. So what this is it's just what's called an extension manager which can be used with XAMPP, and what it allows you to do is install software on your web server using a downloadable installer like the one we used to install XAMPP in the last lesson. So it means you're not messing around with any of the internal files yourself. And where you're going to find the download for WordPress for XAMPP is bitnami.com/stack/XAMPP, and you're going to be able to download it from there. So let's have a look at that page now. So when you go ahead and visit that address, you're going to be brought to a page that looks exactly like this one, and you can look, I have an arrow there pointing to where you can actually go ahead and download the WordPress module. So I've selected the Windows one in this case because obviously I'm on a Windows machine, but you can see below that I have one for Linux, I have one for Linux 64-bit, and I also have one for OS X. So that's going to be for everyone who's using a Mac with XAMPP on their computers. That's how we're going to go about installing it. So let's have a look at the actual installation process. So I'm going to hop outside of PowerPoint here, guys. So it's important before we get set up here, guys, that you make sure XAMPP is open and you make sure that Apache and MySQL are actually running, because what WordPress needs to do before it actually installs itself is it's going to create its own database where it's going to store all of your website's information, and as we know, all of the database stuff is to do with MySQL, so we need to make sure that's running. So I'm just going to go ahead and start MySQL and start Apache as well, so that means my server is up and running. I'll close this now. And now what I'm going to do is click on my Bitnami installer that I downloaded a bit earlier. And the first thing that's going to happen, guys, when this loads up is it's going to ask me for the language I want to use for my WordPress. Now I know some of you guys are from different countries, so you can just pick whichever language is relevant to you. In my case, English is relevant to me, so I'll just click OK. It's going to say welcome, you can just click next. So now, guys, it's going to ask you what folder is XAMPP installed in. And as we know from the previous lesson, we installed XAMPP on the C drive, so it's C/XAMPP. It's found that automatically, so I don't need to do anything else. So I can just go ahead and click next. And what it's going to do now is ask me to create my login details for WordPress. So in this case, your login name has to be all lowercase, so I'm just going to pick Gary. And my real name is going to ask me for then, I'll just type Gary McNeil. And obviously this is going to be whatever is relevant to you guys. Email address, don't worry about it. And now what it's asking me to do is create an application password. So that's what it's going to use to actually let me into WordPress to edit all the content that's going to be on my website. So I'm just going to create a password here. And you can create whatever password you want. And once you've done all that, you can just go ahead and click next. And now it's going to ask you what you actually want to name your website. This is saying it's going to call it Gary's blog. That's fine. I actually just want to call it lesson 6. You're going to be able to change this in the WordPress dashboard area later, but I'll just call it this for now. And what I can do now, it's going to ask me to configure email. Don't need to worry about it. Just click next again. I don't want to learn more about this. Click next again. And now what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and install WordPress on my computer. So what's actually happening right now, guys, if you were curious, is that the Bitnami module is going to get the WordPress folder from online, and it's going to take all of those files and unpack them all onto my web server, onto my XAMPP web server. It's going to create a folder on my XAMPP web server called WordPress that I can access my website from. And what it's also going to do is create a database on my web server. And this is what WordPress does for us. It does all the work, it installs itself, and it's very, very quick. So that's going to come to a finish in just a second. It's probably just unpacking whatever files is left. It's going to create an uninstaller in case you want to uninstall it later. And before I actually go ahead and boot this up on my XAMPP web server, what I wanted to do for the guys who maybe aren't using XAMPP and are using something like I mentioned in the previous lesson, whether that's WAMP or MAMP, I'm going to show you guys how you can actually install WordPress on those downloadable web servers, just because I know some people aren't using XAMPP at the moment. So this is just going to finish up now. It's going to ask me to launch the WordPress module. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to uncheck this and click finish. And that's going to conclude our section on how to install WordPress on XAMPP. Now, let's have a look at installing WordPress on WAMP. So that's for Windows. So I'm just going to shut down my XAMPP here. I'm going to stop Apache, and I'm going to stop MySQL. And what you need to do with WAMP or MAMP, guys, is you need to download the WordPress folder yourself. So in order to do that, you're just going to go to wordpress.org, and you're going to click download WordPress up the top right here. You're going to download the folder, and once you have that folder downloaded, you're going to want to go into your file system wherever you installed WAMP or wherever you installed MAMP. So I installed WAMP on my C drive as well. So I'll just pop back into my C drive here and drag this window over. You can see I'm on my C drive. I have my XAMPP installed and I have my WAMP install. So you just go into your WAMP install, go into your www folder, and what you're going to do then is take that WordPress folder you downloaded and extract all the files in here. So you can see I extracted all the files earlier and it's created this WordPress folder for me. So if I go ahead and boot up WAMP now, and now if I go to localhost /WordPress, and this is localhost on WAMP, by the way, guys. This is not XAMPP. These are instructions particularly for WAMP or MAMP. You're going to go to localhost /WordPress, and when I go onto that, I'm going to be brought to a page where it's going to ask me exactly the same things that Bitnami was asking me. It's going to ask me for my language, it's going to ask me for login information, all of these things, and it's going to take you through the exact same thing. So I'm just going to shut down WAMP now, just because we're going to be using XAMPP for the rest of this lesson. So I'll just go ahead and stop all the services on WAMP, stop all services, and then exit, and I'm going to open back up XAMPP and restart Apache and MySQL there. So that goes over how to install WordPress on both XAMPP and WAMP and MAMP, and whatever it is, you just get the folder, put it in, and you can go to your local host /WordPress and complete the installation from there. So let's start back up XAMPP. And let's look at how to actually get to our WordPress website. So I'll pop into Chrome here, and what I need to type is localhost /WordPress, and this time, because I've already installed it using Bitnami, I'm going to be brought directly to my WordPress website. So you can see I've been brought straight to a website. Everything's already been installed. All of this is here for me, guys. I have not coded one thing on this web page. WordPress has set it up for me. It's a website called Lesson 6, and it has all this stuff straight out of the box. I have a side navigation bar. I have some links to categories, recent comments. I have recent posts. I even have a search bar. I didn't write any code for any of this, and it's just given it to me. It's that easy, guys. So, and you can see I also have articles over the right. I have a Hello World article. I have a Welcome to WordPress little thing here. So let's look at how we can get into the kind of back end of WordPress and start modifying some of this content, because although this does look kind of cool, we want to make things look a little bit better. So in order to do that, I just go localhost /WordPress admin. And from here, what it's going to ask me to do is log in using those credentials that I specified earlier when I was installing WordPress for the first time. So in this case, I called my username Gary, and I also had a password, which I'm not going to tell you. And I'll just click remember me because I don't really like having to log in every time I come to this page. And I'm just going to click log in here, and what I'm going to be brought to now is my WordPress dashboard. And this really is the brains of the operation here, guys. This is where we're going to edit all our content, all our posts, all our menus, all our themes. Everything to do with your new WordPress website is going to be done within this dashboard. So you can see, just to give you guys a brief overview, up the top left it says howdy Gary, that's my login information. I can go in and edit my profile here, and I can change the admin color scheme, so whatever I want this kind of dashboard area to look like. I can edit my first name, last name, nickname, all of those things. Don't want to go near any of those for now. That's just an overview of what those can do. And then down the side I have posts, media, pages, comments, just some different things for editing my content. So just to show you guys how you're actually going to be able to switch between these two areas, let me just go up the top right for a second to the name of my website, which in this case is actually lesson 6. So if I go up to the side, I have lesson 6, and when I hover over that, I have an option for visit site. So I'll just do that. And you can see I'm just brought back to my website, and you can see all of the content on it there. Now, it doesn't look great. Let's be honest, it's come straight out of a box, it's white and grey, not the greatest looking thing in the world. Let's go ahead and change that. So, if I go back to lesson 6 up the top left and go to my dashboard, I can go to appearance here in the middle of the left hand side and choose themes. So if I choose themes, you can see I have 3 themes that are already installed inside of WordPress straight out of the box. I have one called 2013 here. It's kind of brown and black and kind of cream. I have 2014. It's kind of black and green. And then I have the one that you saw a minute ago. Well, to be honest with you guys, I'm pretty picky. I really don't like any of these at all. So what I'm going to do is get a new one. So I'm going to just go up to the top here and click add new. And what's going to happen now is I'm going to be brought to a list of all the WordPress templates that are going to be available to me. And you can see I have a couple of options here. I have featured templates, which are things that are kind of popular and maybe someone has paid to get their template up on this front page. I have popular templates. So this is going to be based then on what people are actually downloading the most. And you can see I have some blue text over these 3 here because I already have these installed on my WordPress. And then I have some more. I can scroll down as much as I want. Lots of themes here. And then the last one is latest. So these are themes that people have created very, very recently and have just come online inside of WordPress. So for me, I'm going to go for popular because usually that's a pretty good indicator of what looks good. So let's have a look through a couple of these and choose which one I like the best. Like this one here, not too fond of that one, pretty picky, so I might take just a second here to choose. This one here, let's go for this one here. So I have a couple of options with this. I have details and preview, or I can just choose to install that inside of my WordPress. Let's see what happens first. We go to details and preview. So you can see it's actually going to load up the entire website template preview here, and it's going to tell me a little bit about the website as well. So I like that actually. I'm going to keep that. So I'm going to click install up the top left hand side here. And what's going to happen when I click install is it's going to go to this new page and it's going to say installing theme and whatever the name of the theme is. So you can see now that it's actually unpacking the files that are in that theme. It's installing the theme onto my WordPress, and in a couple of seconds now, hopefully it's gone to finish. Okay, it's successfully installed now, guys, so I can have a live preview. And what that's going to do is take the content that's already on my site and put it inside this template in a preview mode. I have activate, which just makes it live on my site, and then I have return to theme installer, which is just going to bring me back to that previous page. So in this case, I want to run it straight away. I'll just click activate. And that's going to activate that theme on my site. You can see that I've gone back to my themes page and it says Active Evolve, which is the name of the theme I installed. So let's pop back out to our website now and see what that looks like. Okay, so there we go. That's really kind of the nuts and bolts of WordPress here, guys. You know, all I had to do was download this theme and look at everything I have. I've so much right now. I've a really nice font, actually, was the first thing I noticed. And then after that, I have a little header here, a link to a sample page. I have a search bar. And you can see even if I click on this, it's giving me a little animated pop-out search bar that says type your search. It's all done for me. I haven't done any of this code. I have this cool slider here, and we'll look at changing the images on that later. So I can just do all this. Haven't done any of the code. I have some nice little icons here and a little bit about the template itself. Then I have all the content I can actually put on my website. And there's actually two ways you can go about editing content on WordPress, guys. When you're logged in as the administrator, what you're going to have is this top bar here, so the black bar, and you're going to be able to actually just hover over an article and click an edit button in order to edit that straight away. Or alternatively, you can go inside your WordPress dashboard, which is kind of the back end we were looking at where we selected our theme, and edit it that way as well. So let's have a look at editing it within the page first. So I have an article that's kind of been pre-populated for me by WordPress, so I'm just going to click my little edit button here, and this is probably going to look different depending on what theme you install. So let's just go ahead and click edit, and it's actually brought me to the area in the dashboard or the back end that shows me, that allows me rather, to edit my page. So in this case we have an article. It's called Hello World. That's a horrible name for an article, so let's call it something a bit more meaningful. We'll just call it My First Article. And you can see under that, it actually has a link to that article. It says localhost/WordPress, and then the date, and then /Hello World. I really don't want to call it that. I'll just call it My Article for short. So I've customized that link now, so whenever I go to this address, I'm going to be linked to this article. And here now, what I want to look at, guys, is probably the coolest thing about WordPress and actually putting content in, and where it really drives the point home that you don't need to know about code in order to work with WordPress. This is called the WYSIWYG editor. Okay, Gary, what did you just say? I did not understand a word of that. WYSIWYG, that's what I said, and how that's spelled is W-Y-S-I-W-Y-G. WYSIWYG. Okay, that makes no sense. That's not a word, Gary. You're lying. No, it's not a word. It's actually an acronym. What it stands for is what you see is what you get. And this is a really popular concept in content management systems. A what you see or what you get, or WYSIWYG editor, takes what you type into it and automatically translates it to HTML code. So you can go ahead and type paragraphs, you can go ahead and type headings, you can bold things, you can underline things, you can make lists, hyperlinks, images, everything in the WYSIWYG editor by just clicking buttons, and it will do all of that HTML in the background for you. So let's have a look at each one of those things. So WYSIWYG editor, what you see is what you get. First thing I want is just a paragraph, maybe. So hello, I am a paragraph. And then instead of having to type a bunch of p tags, I can just simply do it the way I do in English. Return, hello, I'm a paragraph. I have 2 paragraphs on my page now. And you've got other things here, like I can highlight this and make it bold, I can make it italics, I can cross it out. I can actually make a list as well. So if I go ahead and click this bulleted list, you can see it bullets automatically for me. So I can just type 1, I can type 2, I can type 3. And all the HTML, guys, in the background that this is actually going to display when you view it is done for you. All you have to do is write in plain English what you want, just like you would in Microsoft Word, in Microsoft Office, whatever it is. You just have to write it down how you want it to look, and it will be displayed that way on the web page. So Very simple example of the WYSIWYG editor there. So let's just have a look at how this is actually translated onto our page. So I'm just going to go and make sure I have everything I want. Yep, I have everything I want. So I'm just going to click update here, and this is going to update my article from what it was before to what I've typed in now. And you can see that before I actually go and click on update, I have a couple of different options. So the first one here is status. And the status of this one is published, and what that means, guys, is that it is readily available on my website, so whoever logs in will be able to see this article, or this article will be published on my website. So I can edit that, and there's a drop down menu, and you can say pending review, or maybe it's just a draft. And that will then allow you to kind of tag that so you remember what stage of work you were on with that. I'm going to leave it published for the moment just to demonstrate something else. What I then have is the visibility. And right now the visibility is set to public. That means everyone can see it. It doesn't matter if you're logged in. It doesn't matter if you're logged out. Everybody can see what is in this article. But I don't want everyone to see what is in this article. I'm a bit private. I want only a select group of my friends to see this article. So I'm going to click edit here, and I'm going to do password protected. I'm going to type in a password that I'm only going to give to a select group of my friends, because my list is so private, because it's really important that nobody knows how to count to 3, because that's how I make all my money. I can't let people see this prized information of mine. So I'm going to enter a password for this article. I'll just enter pass for now. So what's going to happen then is when someone actually goes to that article, all they'll see is an input box to enter in a password. So I'll go ahead and click update now, so that updates on my page. And once that loads, it will all be set in stone here. So I'm going to go back onto my site. And if I click the link from my first article here, you can see it's just loading up now. You can see that this content is password protected. To view it, please enter your password below. So this is a really good way of kind of managing content, kind of taking it another level, where you're not just managing content that everybody can see, you're actually creating content that only certain people can see. So if I type in pass here, which is the password I set for it, and submit, you can see that I now get that article. I can see hello, I'm a paragraph, and I can see 1, 2, and 3. I now know how to count to 3. Fantastic. Let's pop back inside of our dashboard area here and look at that article again. So to look at that article, I just go to posts. And you can see that I have my first article, and it's password protected. I have a couple of options within here that we didn't see before. I have edit, which is what we did. I have quick edit, I have trash, and then I just have view, which will bring me back to the page. So let's go to edit here. So we can see that my article is saved here. So let's add a little bit more stuff here. Let's see what we can add. So let's go ahead and add an image. We'll add some media. So I'm going to go ahead and add this image to my page now. So I have it in documents, I have it in lesson 2, and here's my little Shaw Academy logo here. Perfect. So I've uploaded that image now without you having to use any image tags, without having to use any HTML. And if I want to actually specify how large I want that image to be, I can have a size option here. You can see I can have it as a thumbnail, I can have it as medium, or I can have it as full size. So in my case, I'd like to actually have it full size, so I'll just click the full size option. I can give that image a title then. I'll just call it Shaw logo. I can give it a caption, I can give some alternate text, I can give it a description, all this stuff inside this really easy to use interface. So I'll just go insert into post now. And you can see that Shaw Academy image appears right above my paragraph here, and I can do certain things with that. So you can see here I have a couple of options. I have align left, align center, align right, and no alignment. So that's going to allow me to put it wherever I want. So I'm just going to leave it at no alignment for the moment, guys. I don't really want to do anything with it. So now we have my article, which is just the Shaw Academy logo. Hi, I'm a paragraph. Hi, I'm a paragraph. And I can go ahead and update that now. And then I can go to view article on my site. I'll just go to my site, and we'll go down here, see my first article. And just after that loads, we'll have to enter our password. Okay, looks like Google remembered it. So you have now, I have my image, I have my paragraph, and I have my list from 1 to 3. And the styling of these fonts, the styling of these lists is going to change based on what theme you have. So definitely look into looking at that based on what theme you have. So let's pop back into our dashboard and see what else we can do with this for now. Let's have a look at what other options we have under appearance. So we have themes, customize, widgets, menus, header, background, install plugins. Let's have a look at adding a menu, because that's probably going to be our second most important thing after having a theme, is we need to have a menu that's going to link to all our content. So if I just select menus here, I'm going to be brought to this new page. And I'm going to have to enter a menu for this page. So I'll just call this test menu. And you can see I have menu structure here, and you can say edit your default menu by adding or removing items, and then you can drag item in the order you prefer. So I can go this, I can have home after sample page, I can have home before sample page, and I can go and add another link. So let's see what other things we have. View all. What posts can I add? So I'm going to add my first article to my menu. So I check that and go add to menu. You can see that that's now been added to my menu. If I go and create that menu now, that menu has then been created. So what I want to do after I create my menu is go to manage locations. And from here, I'm going to be able to set my primary menu, my menu for the website, from the list of menus that I created. So if I click select a menu here, you can see I have my test menu that I just created. I can go to save changes, and hopefully if I go back to my website here, I have home, my sample page, and my first article. And you can see, guys, with these themes, if I click this, instead of just going bold, it's actually doing a little animation where it slides up. That's really cool. Some really nice things you can do with templates. So let's go ahead back into our dashboard and install a plugin. What's a plugin, Gary? Well, a plugin is something you're going to add either to WordPress or to your website to get a little bit more functionality out of it. So if I go to plugins here, it's going to give me a list of the plugins I already have installed. So you can see these are just some ones that come automatically with WordPress, but I'm not really interested in any of these plugins. I want to go ahead and add a new plugin. I want to kind of see what's cool, what's available for me to use. So I'll go to add new on the left hand side here. And you can see once this loads, I'm going to be given a list similar to my themes of plugins that are either featured, popular, recommended, or I can add them to my favorites if I want as well. Let's go to the popular plugins and see what we can find. So I've got one that does Google Analytics, I've got a contact form, I've got some security options, which is always great. I've got some stuff that doesn't do very much, like this guy playing a trumpet, just says hello, I think. What's this one here? So this is called Tiny MCE Advanced, and what it says it does is enables the advanced features of the WYSIWYG editor. So actually that's something that's going to be really great, guys. I mean, we always want as much functionality as we can have for adding content, so I think this will be really cool. So to install that then, all I have to do is click the Install Now button. And similar to installing the theme, that's just going to do this thing where it says installing, it says downloading, unpacking, and then success once it's done. I can return to the plugin installer to check out more, but in this case, I'm just going to activate that plugin now and go back to our article to see what that's enabled for us on the WYSIWYG editor. So that's just going to go ahead and activate then. To get back to my article, I can simply go to posts. And here we are, my first article. So let's take a look at our WYSIWYG editor now. Okay, so there's a little bit more functionality here than last, guys. Let me just bring this back up. So you'll notice before we didn't actually have this menu here. We didn't have a file menu, we didn't have an edit menu or any of this stuff here. And you can see that these are just going to allow us to do a couple of things we haven't been able to do before. So in the previous version of the WYSIWYG editor, we didn't actually have the option to insert a table. And you can see if I click over this now, I can see I can actually choose how much I want to have in my table. So I'm just going to make a quick table here, 3 by 2 maybe. So I'll just click 1, 2, 3. So I do actually have 3 columns. And then I'll do 4, 5, 6. And that's going to be a really cool way to add something to your website, like say like a scoreboard or something like that, because tables in HTML, guys, I'm not sure if any of you have looked at them already, they are a little bit complicated. Similar to lists, it's going to be tags inside of other tags, and this is going to extend for, you know, if you have a 3x2 table, you're going to have about 21 to 30 lines of code just to have that table in there. So definitely cool to have something like that in WordPress available for us. Let's see what other kind of options we've been added here. So I've noticed these little arrows beside my bulleted lists now. So if I click this, you can see I have some options for what I want these bullets to actually look like. So let's highlight my list here, and maybe this time I'll choose circle. So you can see they've changed to circles. I can choose disc, full circles or full stops if you want, and then I have square as well. And also on my numbered list I have some more options. So I have things like lower alphabet, I have lower Greek. I'm not sure why you'd ever want to use that. Lower Roman, so that's going to give me Roman numerals for each of those. And I probably have upper alpha and upper Roman as well. Yeah, so I have upper Roman as well. I actually like those, so I'll leave those in. So that's giving me that extra bit of functionality there. So I have this for toolbar toggle as well. And you can see I have some more functionality there. So you can see before I had this I am a paragraph. Instead of that just being a paragraph, I can now turn that into a heading 1. Or I can turn it into pre-formatted, which is usually used for kind of adding code snippets or things like that. And I can also turn this list into maybe pre-formatted as well. I can turn it into a heading 6 and all of these things. And also we have things like clear formatting. That's just going to get rid of all my bold, all my italics, all of that. I have emoticons. I might put one in one of those just for a bit of fun. So let's go ahead and put some emoticons in. Put the happy face. And what else do I have? I have special characters, like all of these things, and some more added functionality that's come out of that little plugin there. So I'm just going to update this article for now, and I'm also going to remove this password just because I don't want to have to enter in my password every single time. So I'll go ahead and update that right now. And what I actually want to do now, guys, is create a new article instead of just using the one that WordPress set up for me initially. So in order to do that, all I would do is just go to Add New. And that's going to give me a blank article to work with. So I'm going to call this my second article. And inside this, I'll do a little bit more complicated formatting here. So first thing I'll have is a heading 2. So I'll type just, I know this is really boring, guys. I'm just going to type this as a heading, but it's the quickest thing I can think of. So I'll do this is a heading. And then it's going to go back to a paragraph when I break the line then. So this is a paragraph. And if I could spell, that would be absolutely fantastic. So let me just get that together. Then I'll go ahead and add a table. So I'm going to add just a 2x2 table for now. So I'm just going to enter some maybe score and then team. And then the next one I'll say, I don't know, name of sports team, not into sports at all. Denver Broncos. Anybody a fan of the Denver Broncos? I don't know. And then I'll say another team, which is, I don't know, team 2. Can't think of anything. Terrible sports person, I know, but, you know, what can you do? Now, what else can I add to this before I finish up? Let's add a hyperlink. So this is really cool, guys. What you can do is you can get a hyperlink, which maybe is going to look a bit messy, something like http://www. blah blah blah. Very messy, doesn't look very nice. But what you can do with the hyperlink tool is actually shorten this down to whatever you want. So I'm going to type in http://www.shawacademy.com. And what I want this link to actually say is not all of that kind of gross URL type stuff. I just wanted to say Shaw Academy website. And this is similar to what we did with the anchor tags or link tags in our HTML lesson, where we had our href attribute, which was the actual URL of the address, and then inside our a tags we had the link text, which was actually what we wanted to say. So I just go ahead and add that. You can see it gives me a little link there for the Shaw Academy website. And just at the end, might as well add a little smiley as well. So let's look at this guy. He's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and publish that now, and we'll pop back onto our WordPress website and check how that looks. Okay, so we have obviously our little slider from earlier. We have our sample page, my first article. Let's see if article 2 has come up. It has indeed. So I have my second article here, and if I click into that, you can see that I'm going to have my table, I'm going to have my little smiley face, I'm going to have my link to the Shaw Academy website in a really nice font because of the theme. I have my heading there, and that's all been really easy to do in WordPress. So let me show you guys how WordPress actually interprets that. So I'll go to the post I just created. Let's go to my second article. And if I can go to text here, you can see that WordPress has actually done all of the HTML for me. Now, some of you are going to notice when you're watching this video, you may pause it at this particular point, and you may also notice that some of this HTML does not look the best. So for example, inside a paragraph, for paragraphs I would usually have p tags, and WordPress has not actually put in any p tags. Now this is bad in terms of HTML code, but WordPress kind of understands it in that way where that is okay to do. So don't worry too much about that. And if you want, guys, if you want to write a bit of HTML code, which I definitely 100% recommend if you know how to write HTML, because it's going to give you more you can do with WordPress instead of having to use that WYSIWYG editor, is write the HTML from scratch in here. It's going to be much easier to kind of get what you want out of it if you do it that way. So I actually didn't add my second article to my menu, so let's go ahead and go and add that now. So I'll go back to my menus, and then I'll go ahead and go to posts and choose my second article. I'll add that to my menu, and now if I save the menu and go back out to my website, I should see that on my top bar. And you can see I have sample page, my first article, and now my second article. So the last thing I want to cover today, guys, in this WordPress lesson, because everything's going to be really similar. Same way we've been editing articles, you can edit this here, you can change this from being a link to not being a link, you can change it from lesson 6 to whatever you want. But let's have a look at this little slider here and change some of the images in here. So I'll pop back inside of WordPress here, inside my dashboard. So to do that, what I want to do is go to Appearance and then Customize. And in here, I'm going to find all of the necessary things to edit on my page. So I have things like my header here, which currently says Lesson 6, and I can edit that as well. I have a post slider here, flex slider here. Let's see what happens when I click inside of flex slider. Okay, so this is a really important thing about WordPress, guys. As I said earlier in the lesson, it is a free content management system. But the themes you get on WordPress, although they may be free, they will sometimes have blocked out functionality. So you can see here I've got a little lock, and it says these options are only available with the premium version of this template. And this is where your cost of business comes in. So you're going to have to choose a template that has all the things you want, and if it's not free, you're going to have to then purchase that template or else settle for something that does a little less. What you're also going to have to factor in, guys, in terms of owning or setting up a WordPress website is the actual hosting of the website. So you're going to need to think about the monthly costs of actually hosting that WordPress website along with a domain name. Now, you can do this on GoDaddy, like we mentioned in the last lesson, and you can also do it on WordPress.org for free, but that free WordPress website will give you access to some basic templates, but you won't be able to use your own custom URL. So there will be free templates, however, where you can actually edit these images and whatever you want, but in this case obviously we can see that that's just not possible. So let's pop back into PowerPoint now and see what we've covered today. So I've shown you guys how to install WordPress, I've showed you guys how to get a template to get a nice looking website. I've explained kind of a bit of the WordPress CMS interface, which allowed me to add and modify web pages and plugins, all without writing any code. I also talked a little bit about there at the end the cost of ownership of this, whether or not you're going to have to purchase a WordPress template in order to get access to all of the features, and whether or not you're going to have to factor in hosting if you want a custom domain name or URL. So that's going to cover it for this week's on-demand lesson, guys. We are fully live for lessons 7 through 10, so make sure you're here and ready to go at 7 p.m. Irish time. That's Irish time, GMT, on Monday. Until then, email any questions you have to web.development@shawacademy.com, and I'll see you guys live on Monday.